Hi everyone, I'm Mihailo, I'm co-founder at Polygon, and today I'm going to be telling you about something that we are very excited about, and that something are Polygon Supernets. So Polygon Supernets are these new powerful dedicated blockchain networks powered by Polygon Edge. Okay, so to start with, I guess it's okay to start with a little bit of history and to explain for those that still don't know what is Polygon Edge. So Polygon Edge, we announced it in May 2021, and ever since we have been heads down building, and we consider it a very, very important piece of software or component for the vision that we have at Polygon. In some way, we see it as a gateway to multi-chain Polygon, the way we see it. So practically, what is Polygon Edge? Polygon Edge is a development framework for dedicated blockchain networks. So some of you might know some other relevant or comparable blockchain development frameworks, such as Substrate, built by the Polkadot team, or Cosmos SDK, built by the Cosmos team. And these are all great pieces of software, of course, and Polygon Edge is in some way at least comparable to these softwares. And we believe, of course, that it has some unique value propositions that we will talk about in a moment. So with these dedicated blockchain networks, we have this vision, as I said, of multi-chain Polygon. And to maybe clarify it a bit or bring it closer to you, we can draw a parallel basically between Web 2 world, the way we know it, and the Web 3 world that we're trying to build. So in Web 2 world, let's say 20 years ago, it was relatively normal for a Web 2 application to be deployed to what we call share hosting. So it's like a shared server in Web 2 context that is used by multiple applications, and they shared basically the resources of that server, the bandwidth, the processing units, etc. As Web 2 became more mainstream and millions and eventually billions of users were onboarded, the need for dedicated resources basically and dedicated hosting became obvious, and we have seen the rise of the cloud and then the affordable dedicated servers. And today is pretty much a standard for any Web 2 application that has kind of mainstream adoption or a big user base to, of course, have their own dedicated Web 2 hosting. We are seeing something similar happening in Web 3. Web 3 is, of course, still a young industry, and it's maturing every day, and we are seeing more and more applications actually reaching product market fit. And as we are seeing that, it is becoming obvious that these shared networks that we have right now, for example, like Ethereum mainnet or Polygon POS chain, they are very much comparable to these shared hosting models that we have in Web 2. As these applications, Web3 applications or dApps, how some call them, are reaching product market fit, establishing bigger user bases, it becomes obvious for them that they cannot really depend on these shared platforms that have limited throughput, that is then shared with all the applications that are deployed on that specific chain. So we need something equivalent, let's say, to dedicated Web 2 hosting. So in this blockchain context, we see these dedicated blockchain networks as something that should basically meet the demand for reliable resources and scalability in these applications that have reached product market fit, and ideally usher the new era of adoption of Web 3. With Polygon Edge, we are currently very happy with the interest that we are seeing. More than 20 projects are currently using it, and we, of course, working with these projects, we learned a lot of valuable lessons that we're going to talk about in a minute, and we will try to explain how we see the next chapter for Polygon Edge. Okay, so before we dive into that, as I mentioned, we believe Polygon Edge has some unique value propositions that make it unique and, in our opinion, maybe optimal for developers looking to build their their dedicated blockchain networks. So let's quickly run through them. So first one is, of course, Ethereum compatibility. To the best of our knowledge, Polygon Edge is the only blockchain development framework that has Ethereum compatibility as a core design principle, basically. So what that means in practice is that we offer first Ethereum virtual machine out of the box. And from that, then we subsequently derive a number of benefits. So all tooling that was built for the Ethereum community, Ethereum network itself, generally work out of the box or with very minimal modifications for any edge chains. Moving forward, we can derive, so chains using Edge can derive layer 1 security from Ethereum by anchoring basically periodically their history to Ethereum, or in future deploying some sort of security modules that can process on the Ethereum mainnet either validity proofs or fraud proofs, and in that way directly deriving security from Ethereum. We also support communication with Ethereum. So basically this Ethereum compatibility or integration is our very, very important focus, and we are, as it can be seen, deriving a number of benefits from it. The second one is scaling, or the scaling spectrum that we support. So we see Ethereum scaling in general as a spectrum where on one side we have this almost kind of sovereign or independent chains that have their own validator sets, and they are basically their EVM enterprise chains or Ethereum side chains. And on the other hand, we have this what we call full-blown layer 2 solutions. So these solutions pretty much completely derive security from Ethereum. They use it for data availability, they use it for security proofs, be it validity proofs or fraud proofs. So, and in between, we see a number of different architectures that we can basically support, that Edge can support. And again, to the best of our knowledge, this is the only blockchain development framework that supports a wide spectrum of different architectures. So that's second thing. And the third thing is, of course, customizability. With Polygon Edge, we are following this recently increasingly popular concept of modular blockchain design. So what we have generally seen in the blockchain world since we started working on this exciting movement are these monolithic code bases, basically. This stack that is not modular, but instead, as I said, very much monolithic. With Edge and some other recent projects, we are following this modular, as I said, blockchain design principle, where we introduce actually a number of modules, number of components that are generally swappable, generally plug and play, and allow actually developers to basically be creative and combine these, what we call blockchain Legos, into something that is optimal, basically, into architecture that is optimal for their use case and their project. So these are, I guess, major unique value propositions of Edge. This is all nice, of course, but as I said, we are currently working with more than 20 projects, and we have been able, the feedback is generally great, but we don't want to focus on that. We want to focus on challenges, on what we can do better, what is not optimal, what we basically can improve. So working with these projects, we were able to identify several challenges that we're going to quickly run through now, and then we're going to talk about how Supernets that we're talking about now are trying or aiming to address these challenges. So first important challenge is bootstrapping of the validator set. If you're building a network using Polygon Edge, you can spin it up very easily. Edge is very, very, I guess, intuitive and easy to use. But once you launch your network, you need generally a decentralized validator set. Otherwise, the whole blockchain thing probably doesn't make sense. Bootstrapping this validator set is generally not an easy task. It requires a lot of operations, outreach to validators, and it generally consumes bandwidth from these application-specific chains, from their teams. And they generally are teams who have an idea, an application, and they need this dedicated, basically, a blockchain for their use case. But actually bootstrapping it consumes a lot of their bandwidth in a moment where they are supposed to focus on their actual application, their actual use case. So that's one thing. The second thing is technical complexity and relevant security concerns that come out of that complexity, I guess. So again, Edge is very intuitive to use, at least we believe so, or that's what we are hearing from developers. But once you launch a network, maintaining that network, upgrading that network periodically, and similar things, doing the DevOps work, still necessarily require some knowledge of basically protocol, some protocol level knowledge, which application teams that actually want these dedicated chains, they don't necessarily have, and they ideally shouldn't have that type of knowledge. So that sometimes brings, unfortunately, these application-specific chain developers in a pretty inconvenient situation. And unfortunately, we have seen lately some unfortunately high-profile exploits and hacks with these application-specific chains. And one of the reasons is, in our opinion, unfortunately, that these application teams don't necessarily have that protocol level knowledge that is required to keep this network running in a secure manner. The third challenge is token design and incentives. So if you want to have, as I said, decentralized validator set, you need to incentivize those validators in some way. So these application-specific chains, oftentimes they have a token. With Edge, of course, just to make it clear, with Edge, you can build your application-specific chains. They might have a token, but they don't need to have a token. It's completely up to you. Edge is unopinionated in that regard. So for these applications that have their tokens, they now need to account for these validators in their network and need to think about, okay, how do we incentivize these guys? What is the correct amount of inflation? What is the correct amount of rewards? And you need to build all these things into your token design, when actually, ideally, you should probably design your token to help the adoption of your application, basically, to incentivize this and to focus completely on designing token in that manner or in that direction. Now you need to kind of bother yourself with all this protocol level stuff. And we realize that this is not really optimal always for these teams building on Edge. And the last important challenge that we realize is basically choosing and switching architectures. So as I said, we use these blockchain Legos and this modular design principle, and that gives a variety of options to developers. But with that variety sometimes comes kind of uncertainty or a certain level of confusion, in a sense, which architecture to choose. Or if you use a certain architecture, Edge supports upgrading to different architectures along the way. When is the right time to switch? How do you actually switch? So these are the things that teams are generally struggling with. So having all this in mind, we have spent some time thinking, working with these teams, and we came up with this concept that we are very excited about, again, that we call Polygon Supernets. So we see Polygon Supernets basically as Edge networks on steroids. And what do I mean by that? So Supernets are the same as Edge. They offer everything that Edge offers in itself, but they just have this, I would say, a unique and powerful set of features that we carefully designed working with these teams and having in mind these challenges that we believe can mitigate all the challenges that we just spoke about. So let's quickly run through these features. First one is all Supernets are, just like with Edge networks, dedicated, of course. So you get your own dedicated blockchain network that is basically there and running with all its resources and capacity and throughput only for your application or your use case, your community, basically. The second important thing that we're introducing, and this is an optional feature, Supernets can be secured by Matic stake validators. So Matic is Polygon's native token, and we are introducing a concept of shared security with Supernets now. Shared security basically assumes the existence of the Polygon validator marketplace or shared validator set, and we already introduced this marketplace or shared validator pool. And basically, when you launch a Supernet, you can opt in for this feature, and you will basically out of the box get a decentralized validator set that will start running your chain. So no more this hustle that we mentioned previously, bootstrapping validator set, thinking about incentives. How do you incentivize them? They already stake Matic, and they receive rewards in Matic. So this whole thing is basically completely abstracted from developers. So it doesn't consume your bandwidth. You as a developer, you just build your application, you deploy it on your dedicated Supernet. It is being run by these validators. You don't even think about it. They receive their rewards, and you just basically can focus as an application developer on your core application and its goals and what you want to achieve with it. The next feature is that they are interconnected, so Supernets can talk to each other or basically exchange value and information either between Supernets or with Ethereum network itself. Currently, it's possible via our bridges that we offer as part of the Polygon Edge framework. In the future, we are considering introducing a formal, basically, cross-chain communication standard that will connect all Supernets and potentially even all other chains in the Ethereum ecosystem. But that is something that we are considering for the future. Right now, it is absolutely possible with bridges that we offer, as I said, as part of the Edge framework. The next feature is again optional, but we believe can be very convenient. These supernets can be managed. When we say managed, we think about actually operational managing. So no one will control the supernet itself. It will still remain fully decentralized, run by validators in a centralized manner, but only these DevOps work, upgrades, maintenance, so all these things that can be kind of tricky or challenging or potentially risky for application developers to do if they don't have required level of protocol knowledge, can be done by a group of certified Polygon partners that we're right now introducing. So these certified partners are entities, basically experienced dev shops or dev teams that we will certify in a way to actually help Supernet teams with actually running these chains in operation. In that way, we're going to we hope to improve the security of these supernets and again free more bandwidth of application developers to actually focus, as I said, on their application, their use case, and what they know and do the best. The last interesting feature that we can mention is that supernets have flexible architecture. So as I said, supernets offer any type of architecture that Edge offers. They just basically make Edge networks more powerful, we believe. So the whole scaling spectrum that I mentioned previously, from fully sovereign chains to full-blown layer 2s, is absolutely supported with supernets. So with all these features, we believe we have created something very interesting and we're very excited about it. Okay, so now we can quickly run, as I said, supernets support all these architectures. We can now quickly run through 4, I guess, typical supernet types that we expect to see in the Polygon ecosystem in years to come. First is on the left side of spectrum, as I mentioned, sovereign supernet that has its own independent set of validators. They can be either proof of stake secured or proof of authority secured, which is more convenient or more, I guess, makes more sense for enterprises. These networks can be optionally managed by certified partner of Polygon, and that's about it. Shared security chain is the next type that we can cover. Shared security is basically what we mentioned right now with supernets and the features that they have. So basically this network is decentralized but uses this shared security layer of Polygon and taps into this Polygon validator marketplace to bootstrap basically this decentralization and security out of the box. Again, it can be optionally managed by a certified partner, making developers' life easier in that way. The third type is rollup. We will be soon introducing rollups as part of Polygon Edge and thus Polygon Supernets. We have several different rollup efforts under the Polygon umbrella, and once they are ready and once the technology is ready, they will be offered as part of the Edge framework and Supernets. Rollups basically rely on Ethereum for both security and data availability, as probably most of you know. They can also be optionally managed by the certified partner. And the last type is Validium. Basically, Validium is in a way derivative of rollup, in a sense that it still relies on Ethereum for security, but data itself that is normally stored on the Ethereum with rollups, it's stored somewhere off chain. So it can be basically stored in a solution like Polygon Avail that we are building now. Polygon Avail is a dedicated solution for data availability, or it can be stored, for example, in the decentralized validator set of the Validium itself, depending on basically what the actual or specific project that is using Validium considers optimal for them. These networks, of course, can also be managed by one of our certified partners. So these are, I guess, the four main types or typical types that we expect to see. Okay, so now that we cover this, again, we are very, very excited about this concept of supernets, especially because it was built, designed in close collaboration with projects that we are working with already with Polygon Edge, and we believe that we can really start some new chapter of Polygon and in general Web3 adoption with Supernet. To ignite this vision and show our commitment, we are officially committing 100 million from Polygon's treasury into this adoption fund, how we call it. Adoption fund the goal of the fund is basically to facilitate, again, ignite this vision that we have of Polygon as a massively scalable, interconnected multi-chain system. In this system, this multi-chain system, we see, first of all, multiple public nets, how we call them. So these are shared networks of public networks like Polygon POS that is currently very popular, Polygon Hermes that is coming. So these networks will, we believe, continue to exist, like in a similar manner how shared hosting still exists in Web 2. So these instances will still be useful for quick deployment, quick prototyping, and some other stuff. So we see these public nets or these shared networks still existing moving forward. In addition to public nets, we see potentially at least unlimited number of supernets coexisting with them and facilitating, as I said, the next phase of adoption of Polygon and Web3. So, as I said, to ignite this vision, we are committing this significant amount from Polygon Treasury, and funds are available immediately and can be used for the following purposes. First of all, R&D contracts and grants. So they are still components of Polygon Edge and Supernets that we want to design, we want to build. We will be inviting all interested individuals and dev shops, teams to help us design these components and build them. The second use of funds might be third-party integrations and partnerships. So basically, when you launch your own network, oftentimes you need some third-party services like block explorers, like oracles, like RPC providers, and etc. So we are currently working with major third-party providers in all these fields to agree with them to support edge networks or supernets out of the box, basically, or in the easiest way or the most scalable possible way. Next purpose, the next field where we can use the funds is project onboarding and migration, of course. Some projects will need some incentives to get onboarded to Supernet, so we're ready to support that. Liquidity mining, so if we identify an application that we consider important or that it has a lot of potential in some way or contributes to the Polygon ecosystem overall, we might decide to support liquidity on that specific application or that specific Supernet. And the last, I guess, important thing to mention are acquisitions. So if we, again, come across, as some of you might know, Polygon has done a decent number of acquisitions lately. And if we, again, come across a team or a project that we consider very aligned with our vision and we consider that they can help us on this exciting journey, if there is mutual, basically, interest, we might decide to acquire that team. So these are, I guess, major uses of these funds. And with this, I would like to thank you and invite you to basically learn about Supernets, to apply if you have an interest as a project, to visit our website, to visit our Supernets landing page, to apply for your Supernets today, contact our team, or basically wait for our further announcements for the fund that we mentioned. Okay, thank you, everyone.